Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are picking the Harris chain. It is Wednesday before the tournament. It's almost noon or getting close to noon here. I'm actually on my lunch break. This episode is brought to you by Walmart. I am at least parked in their parking lot. They have not given me anything to do this, of course. So we're gonna try to get this out. I'm on my lunch break. I got a real short time here. I gotta get back to work and actually I got a meeting here shortly. So we're gonna make this quick. We're gonna get all this out. I had several people reach out to me. I did not get this video made on time. That has been a theme this year, but we're gonna do better. Hopefully we'll have some good information here, get you some last minute help on your picks, and we'll be ready to roll at the Harris chain tomorrow. With that said, let's not waste any time. We'll go right into bucket A. As always, a lot of good options here. Ben Milliken, Trey McKinney, two of the tops in the AOY right now, both guys. I'm actually surprised McKinney's not picked a little more. I think he'll do well here. Andy's leading AOY, so feel good about him. But another one in this one, Fujita is in here. I think on Grand, I said I was picking him until he proved me otherwise. Not a bad strategy here, but just a couple guys I like in this one better. One guy that makes a ton of sense, especially from the historical perspective. His last two finishes here at the 22 Elite and the 2019 Open were 23rd and 17th. So a couple of good finishes, but I am not picking him. That is Justin Hamner. I got burned 2 years ago picking Christie, coming off the Classic win, fishing Santee Cooper. To this day, you cannot convince me that that is not a perfect matchup of fishing style, skill, and how the lake was going to fish at that time. He should have been able to do pretty much exactly what he did at the Classic and catch a good bag there. But there's just so much that goes on with the Classic. You never know how a guy's going to handle that. Even the very best of all time sometimes have really stunk it up after that tournament. And so I'm going to stay away from Hamner on this one, although from a purely numbers standpoint, certainly a good option if you want to roll the dice a little bit there. Ultimately for me in this bucket, it came down to two options, Jordan Lee and Patrick Walters. Jordan Lee, maybe the most talented guy in the Elite Series right now since he came over. Obviously highly thought of in Florida. He's had a lot of good finishes here, picked by about 19%, so makes a lot of sense. Does not have any good history on the Harris chain, at least that I see. I don't remember, he might have fished here back in college. I can't remember. I don't think so though. But anyway, I ended up going with Patrick Walters. He's got a couple of decent finishes here. Last time we came here for the Elite Series in 22, he was 50th, so not a great finish there. But I'm hoping he can bounce back a little. He's a guy, honestly, if I never put another video out and you don't know what to do in bucket A, just pick Patrick Walters the rest of the season. I think he's going to make a run at AOY. He's third right now. Would be really surprised if he doesn't make a run at it this year. He had a really good year last year, except for those one or two tournaments. So a guy that I think really highly of the rest of the season at all the bodies of water we have left. So Patrick Walters, my pick there. On the predictor side, Hamner is the highest one in this tournament, 58.85. Predictor thinks highly of him, a combination of he has done well here. He's got a decent pick percentage. He's got momentum on his side with recent success. So all things it looks at and thinks highly of. And then Tyler Rivet, number 2, I totally glossed over him. 53.4 predictor score in this one. He was 16th here in 22, so a decent finish. And also he won Okeechobee last year. He's a guy that kind of really, at least to me, opened my eyes to the impact that forward-facing sonar was going to have when he won that Okeechobee tournament doing that. So certainly somebody that could have success doing that again. One thing to note on that 22 tournament, that was in February. Well, that'll play into my decisions a little bit later on. Quite a bit earlier in the year, pre-spawn, early spawn, a lot of big girls moving up. We'll still see some of that. There'll still be some fish to be caught on beds, but not a lot of the pre-spawn staging stuff. It'll be more spawn and or moving off, potentially even into some summer type offshore stuff happening. At least that's what I think is going to happen down there. Moved into bucket B. I had a real hard time picking this one. There are plenty of good options again. Pat Schlopper's one I thought of or looked at a lot. He was 33rd in that 22 tournament here. Polinick, always a strong option, especially when he's in one of the lower buckets. He was 26th here in 22. But ultimately, the two guys that it came down to for me, and I'm still having a lot of heartache over this one, John Garrett, Drew Benton. John Garrett has a lot of history down here in Florida. Excuse me for that squeak. John Garrett has a lot of history down here in Florida. He's done well in the Opens, fished this a few times. The most recent one, the 21 Open, he was 14th. He also fished it a couple years before that. I don't have it noted here, but I know he did pretty well. So he's a good option here on the Harris chain. I ultimately picked Drew Benton. He's a guy, especially if he can find him on beds, he's going to do really well. He was second here in 2022. He was also 109th here back in, what was that one? The 2021 Open. So has shown that if it doesn't quite line up for him, he could do poorly here. So I'm hoping he can kind of get on him like he did in 22 and make a run for it again. On the predictor side, top one here is John Garrett, 40.75, little lower scores than A. In fact, B overall on the predictor side was not real strong. So, but 40.75, decent score there for the top one. And Polinick in number 2 with 36.45. Into bucket C. Again, some really good options in this one. A stronger bucket, in my opinion, than B, actually, on this one. You got Alex Wetherill. He's a good Florida fisherman. He's got a couple good finishes in Opens here. In fact, he was second in 2021 on the Harris chain. Kyle Welcher in this one, your reigning AOY. He was third in the 2019 Open, I want to say here. He did bomb a little bit back in 2022 at this one. He was 80th, so struggled in that one, but always a good option. Porosnik in this one, and no, I didn't pick him, even though he's got good history here. 32nd in that Elite Series, and then 8th in that 2021 Open. Drew Cook, another guy. If there's enough fish on beds, he's going to do really well, really strong in that regards. I ultimately had really a tough time picking between 3 different guys in this one. Kenta Kaimura is here, fishing really well right now, obviously, and also he was 9th in 2022, so he's a good option. Got some history here. Brian Schmidt, really strong on the Harris chain. He was 6th in 22, 2nd in 2019 at the Open, and then he did have a little worse finish in 2018 at the FLW at 78th. So a lot of it with him, if he can fish pre-spawn and or grass fish, specifically, he's going to be really strong. So, and that's something that should be starting to play right now. Wouldn't surprise me if he does well. I thought long and hard about him. Ultimately, I ended up going with Brandon Lester. Just a really strong Florida angler. Seems like every time the Elite Series heads to Florida, he does well. He's also got strong history here. He was 5th in 22 and 5th back in 2019 at that Open. So a couple of good top 10 finishes. And he's ultimately my pick for that reason. On the predictor side, that we finally sync up on this one. Lester, the number 1 with 52.15, and Kaimura, number 2, 47.05. Into bucket D. Another good one, and this is kind of an interesting one because there's 2 guys here that normally you would really, I mean, that they would be like bucket A type picks in pretty much any Florida water. Really 3 guys here even. Other ones to consider, David Mullins here was 4th in 22. Greg Hackney has done well here over the years. He was 12th in 22 and 13th at that 2021 Open, so he's got some good finishes. Scott Martin, obviously in here, well known how proficient he is in Florida. He was 10th in 22, and really he had a chance to make a run at that one, and it just didn't come through for him. I mean, obviously a good finish at 10th, but he had a chance to really move up and struggled at that tournament. The 2 guys that came down to for me, Buddy Gross and John Cox. Buddy Gross, unbelievable history on the Harris chain. He was 1st here in 22, 6th at the 2019 Open, and 5th in the 2018 FLW here. If I recall correctly, all 3 of those tournaments were more like February time frame. And if this tournament was that time of year, I would be picking Buddy Gross 100% of the time just because of his history here. Ultimately, in this one, I'm going to go with John Cox. I think that he is fishing a little bit better than Gross right now, although they're in bucket D, so neither one of them's having a great season. Cox, I think, is just a little more versatile. Buddy is more specific to me. If he can get in the right situation, then he's just going to have a chance to win basically any tournament where he gets that pre-spawn offshore or post-spawn offshore bite where he can throw a crankbait and do some of that type of stuff. He's a threat to win any tournament in that situation. But John Cox, to me, 7th in 22, 11th at the 2021 Open. He did have a poor finish here in that 2018 FLW, so a little concerning. And also 36+% picking him, so a lot of company on that pick, but I will take John Cox in bucket D and run with that all day. Predictor, once again, lines right up with that. Cox 55.1, Gross 52.6. And last but not least, bucket E. A little tougher one to pick for me. You do have a couple of decent options with some recent top 10s here. Cliff Perch was 8th in 2022. Strong angler in Florida at times, although he's somewhat up and down to me, but he's a good option in this one. Ray Hanselman out of Texas was 3rd here in 2022. Really strong finish for him. He's a guy I really took a long, hard look at. A couple other guys here that have finished decent. Bernie Schultz was 22nd, and Rick Klun was 21st in the 2022 Elite Series here. That'd be great out of bucket E. You know, if you can get a 20th to 25th, you usually are feeling really good about your chances in that tournament out of bucket E. But ultimately for me, I'm taking a guy with no history here. Well, none of the tournaments I looked at. Will Davis Jr. fishing really well right now. He's 20-something in ALY, so he's keeping himself in it. Guy that is just really versatile, and I think is going to do well anywhere. And I look for him to kind of make a push this year up the AOY, and I think it starts here in Florida at the Harris Chain. On the predictor side, Perch 45.4 leading this one. He's got that history here. Same with Hanselman at 2nd, 36.7. They both have a top 10, so it makes sense in bucket E that they're going to move up on the predictor formula. And so anyway, ultimately my team, I'm going Walters in bucket A, Benton in bucket B, Lester in bucket C, Cox in D, and Davis Jr. in E. So hope some of this info helped everybody. Sorry it's a little rushed. I do have to head back to work, so enjoy the rest of your day. Good luck tomorrow at the Harris Chain, and we'll see you on the next one.